Hey guys, so today we are going to answer a subscriber question, and the question in question was, Frederick, why do Facebook, Google and big companies like that so aggressively market open source projects? So let's get into it. Well, the root question here is basically, why would a profit-based company so aggressively try to market and get people to invest in something that is for free? Well, this is of course just speculation, but there is an assumption that I think a lot of people make that is, and it's kind of the same reason why I argue that you see Microsoft go over into, like, why they're buying GitHub basically, and why Oracle has shifted over some of their products over to other foundations and stuff of this nature, and this entire idea about open source in general. I think that there is something that is has been mentally missing in quite a few people, and not just the big companies, but just in general. And that is the assumption that the only gain there is to be made in business rather, is through selling something, through monetary gain, through actually having people pay you for whatever you do. This is absolutely true to a point, but just let me walk you through it. At a smaller scale, a company simply has a lifespan that only stretches so far. In other words, your budget is finite. It's very finite, especially in really small companies. You simply you cannot afford the luxury of taking risk with your money. You need the return on investment on pretty much anything you do. However, at a certain size, your company is going to have such massive amounts of revenue streams, or there's going to be so much money coming in and just being processed through your company, that you can afford yourself certain luxuries. Now, the big mistake some of the really big companies make in this scenario is that they continue the same mindset that they have at a small scale. In other words, it's just money out, money in, money out, money in, money out, money in, like completely that mindset all the time. And that has worked, and it does work. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with that way of thinking. I mean, it's the basics of capitalism. Now, what is interesting is, though, that Google and these bigger companies and the truly successful companies have realized something. And I mean, this is news to people who are working in this sort of scale that we're talking about here. A good example of this, like the industries that have understood this better than any other industry, is the fashion industry and the car industry. Hands down, no one understands this more than they do. And what is that? It is branding. Yes, branding. Now, Apple does this as well, and they probably have, last I checked, they still have the most expensive brand in the world, along with Microsoft, Google, Coca-Cola, and a few others. You see, branding, guys, is the thing that a lot of really big companies are. I mean, every company is interested in branding to a certain point, but it doesn't make sense for you to, how do I put this? If you are a really small company, it's not a really all that clever investment for you to pool all your excess income into branding as much as it has to. I mean, it's more sane, if you will, to focus on expansion, to grow to a certain size. But once you are at that size, what's more important is that people get I'm not going to say in love with your brand, but they stay loyal to your brand, because if you produce things and your brand is relevant, that gives you a lot of leverage. Now, for Google and Facebook and so forth, who have some of the, I'm going to go out and say, they probably have the most respected brands in IT at this point. I mean, Microsoft is up there as well, but when it comes at least to open source, they have some of the biggest projects and probably the most used projects around, just in general. Now, just think about that. Why would that be interesting to these companies? Why would they push this so much? Well, as I said, because if their projects are the things that everybody is using, you're basically investing in their companies. That gives them market value. And it also gives them quite a lot of sway in discussions on how things are going to move. Because if I control the platform that you are using, if I own that platform and everybody else is using it, I pretty much have a say in what direction everybody is gonna go in. Think about it. If you have thousands and thousands and thousands of companies who are invested in React, then as long as Facebook doesn't really mess that up and they keep up that quality and keep everybody happy, they can very subtly steer where things are going, and they can make decisions, and that gives them a certain amount of control. I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy, guys. I'm just saying that there is a big value in having that. Other things that are very subtle that you may not think about is employer branding, not just branding for the company, but actually recruitment purposes. Some of the best programmers in the world are invested in open source, and they really, building that community, then you will have people just actively helping you out with maintaining your projects. And that gives you a lot of benefits that bigger companies may not be so, you may not think about it because all you're thinking about is that it's for free. But if that really is your assumption, just think about this as well. A few years ago, the term React had no search relevancy at all on Google. How much search relevancy do you think that React has today? How much traffic do you think that brand is right now producing? And how many people do you are producing tutorials and other content to teach you React, to hold workshops in React? An entire business has sprung up around this single free framework, and that drives traffic, and traffic is actually the main revenue stream for these, having ads and so forth. That's the main revenue stream for Facebook. It's the main revenue stream for Google. I'm not saying that that's the whole story, guys. I'm just saying that if you have this this idea that this is just for free, there's more to it than that. Because something can actually be for free and still produce a lot of benefit for the people who are producing it. So what I want you to take away from this is that although this may be complete speculation on my part, it's something that I hope that we can kind of agree on, that even if something is for free, think about it. How much does it actually cost, do you think, to maintain something like React or Kubernetes? It might be fairly expensive by your standards, but for these companies, we're talking about companies who make, I don't even want to guess the amount of money that they are pulling in. I've worked for companies of this scale, and I know that they make, even if they increase their total conversion rate by 0.001% annually, that's going to outweigh the entire, all the salaries for every single person who works on the project that delivers this value. So remember that, because when you are that big, anything that increases traffic or relevancy for your brand is actually going to be converted at some point into revenue. And as a side benefit, it's actually a very useful thing to have an open source project that is very well maintained by a lot of people, because it drives community. It helps you with recruitment purposes, and you do actually have an amount of control over an area of the industry. Have a great day.